Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first code break of February. And like usual, this is the point where I beg and plead for those of you in the live audience to send me one comment so I know that this is actually working and it's not just me talking to myself. Although it wouldn't be the first time of me talking to myself. So that wouldn't be completely out of the question as well. Uh, Good morning slash afternoon, and thank you to everybody chiming in. I was going to show comments, but there's too many coming in. There's thousands of you watching me right now. That is awesome. Um, the last time we had this, uh, it was a blizzard, which is the weirdest thing I could ever imagine seeing in Louisiana. We ended up having 10 inches of snow or something, which is insanity for Louisiana. It shut down the city like for a week. My kids, they were already off on Monday for Martin Luther King Day, and they ended up not going to school the entire week. And the roads are pretty much shut down for pretty much till Thursday or Friday. My daughter, I don't think, went back to work until Thursday night. Yeah, it is. It's not snowing yet. Honestly, I don't like kids. Well, Fox, you're in the wrong live stream, probably. Sorry, I have kids. I talk about my personal stuff. But yeah, that snow is gone. It is now like 800 degrees or so, and it's February, which means summer is going to be just delightful. I can't wait. So with that being said, before we get into talking about our topic today, as a reminder, I am still looking for my next role. So if you're hiring for developer relations or developer relations adjacent type roles, you should definitely hit me up because I could be streaming about your stuff right now if you were to hire me. So definitely reach out, let me know, and hopefully at the next code break, I won't have to sit here and be like, "Oh, please hire me." But that being said, let's hop into the screen share here. Give me 1 second while I adjust windows around and stuff like that. And add to stage. There we go. And before I begin with the review and all that, I will once again thank my sponsor, Jam.dev. As I say before, all these meetings, all these live streams, this is a very, very cool tool to make it easier for your users to send reports about your web application. They don't have to be technical. This tool will gather all the information for you and just send it along. Integrates with Jira, Asana, Notion, GitHub, etc. And it's a free tool as well. So I thank them. They've been sponsoring me, sponsoring this stream now for maybe 4 or 5 months, which is pretty cool. And I like to say it makes me feel like I'm a professional. But you're here to hear about AI, and so let's talk about AI. What I want to do is first kind of recap what we talked about last time. I focused on working with Gemini, and the main reason that I focused on Gemini is because it's really freaking easy to use. And the fact that you can get a free key to play with it. You don't need a credit card, and you could kick the tires. You could really learn a lot about working with Gen AI with Google, not spending anything at all. They have SDKs, they have a REST API. If you follow my blog, and you should definitely follow my blog, on the random chance that you don't, RaymondCamden.com, and here's me talking about this live stream right now. But I have been blogging about Gen AI for a while now. Let's see, I started in October of 23, and I blogged 64 times, and probably sometimes good. Uh, I've been blogging for a while, and primarily because it's A, easy, and B, free to use. So I had no issues with it. But we talked about that. I talked about how I got a key and all that, and we did a couple of tests. Now, on screen here, let me make that a little bit bigger for y'all. This kind of shows you for Python just how stupid easy it is. Um, that's 5 lines, and by the way, for those of you new to the stream, when I keep glancing over here, I'm looking at my comments and seeing which ones I have to or I should respond to. So I apologize if I keep doing that. Anyway, yeah, this was how easy the code was, and I showed an example of that where we just, passed in a prompt and modified it, etc. The Node.js code is also pretty darn easy. Let's switch to that. You can see it's a bit more lines of code. I am trying to do everything in Python now because I've been using Node for like 10 years and I still like it quite a bit, but Python makes me really happy. So I showed an example of like doing a real simple prompt from the command line via a simple script. That was really easy. We also talked about working with files, and I'll show you that under document processing capabilities in the docs. Gemini supports PDFs, but also supports pretty much every kind of doc format, video format, audio format. It supports them all really, really easy. This particular part of their documentation is just about PDFs, and coming from Adobe, that was kind of big on my mind. But it walks you through how to do multimodal, or essentially prompts with files via Gemini. They have 2 main ways of doing it. One is essentially to inline base 64, but there's a cap on that of 20 megabytes. And because the second way is much better, I almost never inline the files anymore. And you could see in an example of that under large, right here. So Gemini also has a files API, and you can think of it as like a temporary cloud storage type system, where basically you give Gemini the file. It's secure, they don't have access to it, only you do. And then your prompt can reference that file or files. And then Gemini automatically cleans up those files within 24 hours. Now, they also support a REST API where if you want to tell it, kill the file immediately, you can do that. And there's other options for working with more permanently stored things as well. But you can see here, this is like 10 lines of Python code where they grabbed the PDF from a remote URL. They essentially downloaded it and streamed it back up to Gemini, and then passed a prompt to summarize this document. And that was very easy. And one of the last things we did, let me make this a little bit bigger. As always, y'all tell me if this text isn't big enough. But I used a local PDF. Let's see if I still have there we go. This is my resume. See, it's wonderful. I've done big things. Anyway, this is the code that's needed to say, take that local PDF, give it to Gemini. That's line 8. That's it right there. And then write a prompt. And in this case, I told Gemini exactly what the type of document is. That helps it work better. Doesn't have to guess. And then I asked it for feedback on the resume, and essentially passed it to the SDK and printed the response back. And I've already run this, but I'm going to run it again just so y'all can get an idea of the speed at which this runs. So one of the things that you learn getting into Gen AI is that there's many different models, and it's probably not a great way, but to me, it's like the kind of brain that you're using. And Gemini really kind of simplifies it down to a Flash and a Pro model, with the Flash model being quick and the Pro model being slower and a bit more thoughtful. So you're probably thinking, like, why would I never want the absolute best response? Well, you may be working in a chat type application where the speed is much more important. Or you may be working on something that's not user-centric at all, like a back-end process, for example, and where it's okay if things go a little bit slower. So this particular case, I am using the faster model. And if we run it again and y'all can count, I'll count as well. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8. There we go, about 8 seconds. And you could see it gave a lot of feedback. And in the last session, we kind of skimmed this a bit, and it actually felt pretty darn accurate. So we had built that in the last session. And then what we decided, or what I decided, I should say, is that let's build a web app that will make this like a thing that you can do. So for example, this right here, a resume reviewer application where you're going to click to pick your PDF, your resume. You're going to give it to the web app, and then the web app is going to send it to Gen AI and essentially dump the results back. So that's where we're going to start today. Like I built the front end, and we're going to keep working on that. The front end is built in Flask, a real simple Python web application framework. In fact, you could see, let's give some more space for our code here. App.py, that is the entire application right there. It has one route. It is rendering a template, in this case, index.html. And that file, we'll look at that. That's pretty much what you just saw on screen there, the little form for picking your file, submit button, etc., and then some JavaScript. This line here, line 20, this is an example of the template engine that's built into Flask, where it's going to essentially say, hey, I have a static folder. It could be dynamic. It could be changed based on configure, whatever. Just make a pointer to that and the file app.js. So in this case, by default, static folder, I have an app.css and an app.js. I see I'm not using my CSS. I'm not going to worry about that. And right now, my JavaScript just alerts one. Flask has a command line that I'm already running in my terminal that will automatically reload stuff. So what we need to do now is actually make this thing submit, actually send the PDF document to the backend. And for that, we're actually going to do a little bit of JavaScript. And you could see how much of an awesome JavaScript developer I am. One of the kind of first things I do is have an event handler for DOM content loaded, basically when the web page is ready. And so we're going to start there, and we're going to have the init function like so. So I'm going to need a couple things, right? I'm going to need a handle that points to that input field there, and then a handle to that review button so I can handle the click thing. So I like to use $ variable names for anything that points to the DOM. So we'll have file input and review button. And we will make these variables real by saying file input equals, I don't like get element by ID, I meant document query selector. And what did I call it? ID's file. All right, that's very imaginative there, Raymond. And then my button is submit. I should rename that to review, but that's all right. Review button. If even my code assist is suggesting that. All right, so now we have handles for both of those. I missed the reasoning at 0:30 and was thoroughly unimpressed. All right. Brian, I'm going to talk to you more about that later. So first thing I'm doing is adding an event listener for a click for that button. And we will do that. And just for the heck of it, console.log click. And I also want to prevent default. e.prevent. Thank you. Okay, so all I've done is write a bit of JavaScript to say, give me hooks to those two parts of the DOM. I am going to need to know what file you picked, and then I'm going to send it to the backend. So let's just make sure I haven't screwed anything up yet. Open up my console and reload and hit review and sweet. So let's make sure that we actually pick the file. So I always forget. I think it's files.length. So equals 0 return. So essentially, if they have not picked anything, do nothing. I could also alert, hey, pick a file, or put something in the area to say you should do that. But right now, we're going to keep it simple, and we're going to get our file input.file 0. You may be wondering, why is that an array? Because the input type file can take multiple files if you add, wait for it, multiple. Especially if you spell it correctly. By the way, there's actually most form fields have multiple support, and when you use HTML's built-in error checking, it typically handles it well. So if you said type equals email and you have it required, you validate, it will do its best to validate a proper email address. But multiple, it rocks the comma in there. It doesn't consider it an invalid input. We're not using multiple, but still the value will be an array. And for the heck of it, let's just look at the file. It's going to be an object. And so reload, choose file, and let's see. Don't want to browse my file system. It's boring, I promise. I'm just going into my folder. By the way, again, as a reminder, I do think we have some new people here. All this code is up on GitHub. The version from the last stream is already there. When we hang up this particular session, I will push to GitHub again. So I just picked my PDF, I hit review, and there we go. All right. So now all I want to do is post this to my backend. And I always struggle a bit with this. So let me actually write what I want to do. Create a form body object to post the file. And thank you for helping me with that. Form data.append. I recently added Copilot to Visual Studio Code, the free version that Microsoft provides. I don't pay for Copilot, and I am becoming a believer. So it's kind of cool. So let response equals await fetch. Yeah, you know what? I will keep taking that. Although I don't like it in multiple files here. And so in theory, that should do something. Let respond. I should have just accepted that. And yes, all right. I'm out of a job now. I don't have to write code anymore. So this should absolutely break because I don't have anything in the Flask app to actually handle that. But you see, I'm debugging the request down here. So in theory, I should at least see the error come out and know that something has gone wrong, and then start working on that. And the Flask apps, actually, the Flask app and docs actually cover this. So let's reload. I'm going to choose my resume again, hit review, and yep, 404 not found. That's exactly it. And let's go to the app. So if I remember right, app.post like that, except no, we're going to review. This basically allows me to bind just a post request to that URL. Oops, let's get rid of that red squiggly. Handle review. And in theory, this is going to do something. This is going to get file input. Let's God here. Let's just make sure this is working. Return hello. So that should do something. All right. And reload, choose my file again, hit review. Yes, and actually, I returned text, not HTML, but if we look at the network, I got hello back, and hello got here. Cool. So what I need to do now is actually process the file. And like I said, the Flask apps have docs on this. And bam, file uploads. You could handle it with easily. So let's try this. Let's get the request. And when I posted it, I called it file. Go back to JavaScript. I called it file. So in theory, this should get that. We'll printf. I'm assuming it'll be an object of some sort. And then we want to save it. And they do mention that there's a way to get a secure file name. That's okay. You should never trust that value. Yeah, so absolutely, we should not save to the file system. Make sure it's not readable. And we should do security on it. But I'm going to keep it simple for right now. And just save this to right here, except that it's going to be in my file system already. So let's make a new folder called PDFs, and this is not reachable via Flask, so you shouldn't be able to hit that via your browser. But we will call it. And what did they say? Oh, and we're gonna make it a hard-coded document. And so again, A, I should validate that it's a PDF first. B, I should make sure I'm not saving to the file system at all. C, to make this handle multiple users at once, I should give the file name like a unique UUID. That's all easy stuff to do in Python, but we're trying to focus on the Gen AI aspect. So let's just make sure this works and get rid of the JavaScript message error. Will actually return valid JSON. So let's see what happens. And again, reminder, y'all, if I go too quick, just leave me a comment and upload the PDF again, hit review, and 500. All right, what did I do wrong? Oh, I did not import request, and that was actually documented right there in front of me. From import to request. All right, let's just see. I just hit review again. I sure can. And it got a response. Status equals okay. All right, so let's see if it's saved in my PDFs folder. It did. And is it valid? Sweet. So again, like I said, I should be giving a unique file names because multiple people come at the same time. But that is okay. We don't need to. We can get rid of that print statement, get rid of the other debug one. And at this point, this is where we want to start using our Gen AI code. Now, I would definitely consider using a separate file for this, a Python class. We should do that. Yeah, I still feel like so new to Python. Y'all can see me kind of guess at this, but we will call it, make a new class, and we'll call it Gemini.py. And I'm going to import from my test script, even though this is all going to go away. And I'm going to cheat a little bit because I talked about Flask recently, and I had an example application, simple blog example in Flask. Yeah. And in this particular blog post, I did a little like a fake blog in Flask, and I had a class. Here we go. I don't need to copy all of that, but what I should do is come in here, and I'm just going to comment everything out just right now, just so that I can start kind of fresh. And we will call this class Gemini, and def init self, and let's actually in self, let's configure like that. So basically when the class is created, go ahead and load in my API key from the environment. Those of you who are Python experts, please don't judge me too harshly. And we will set self.model equal to that. And that should work, right? Yeah. And then we will define a review method that takes a path. And the autocomplete's actually pretty darn good. So we will upload the path. MIME type is hard-coded. Again, we're not doing any type of error checking to make sure it's PDF, but that's all right. Prompt is also hard-coded. And then we will just run the response and return response.text. So in theory, that should be it. If we go back in here, we'll say from Gemini, import Gemini, and say Gemini equals, nope, that's Gemini equals that. So I made an instance of it. It feels okay. And in theory, result equals Gemini.review, and the path. There's no way it's going to be that easy. Like, no freaking way. I am not a Python expert, but we'll judge you. That is fine. I will say, one of the most fun things I've done in Gen AI, not that it's practical at all, is I've built Gen AI apps that will roast you. My favorite being one that it's a web app. It accesses the device camera. You take a picture, sends it to Gemini, and basically says, "Hey, tell me how bad this photo is." And it is, you know, I would never talk that way to somebody else, but having the robot talk that way to me, I freaking love. We use a Google Home device in our kitchen, and I wish it had like a rude mode to be rude to me. You know what else how to get? Yes, GitHub Copilot definitely does. Cool. So I think that's it. Like, I can't believe that this is going to work. I mean, obviously it won't display in the web app, but let's go ahead and reload. Choose my PDF again, my resume, hit review. Now, this should take about 10 seconds, and we had an error. Oh, models, yeah, yep, I forgot. It is, and my IDE was even telling me self.model generate content. So we go back, and this button still works. I should definitely do the proper UX of disabling the button while it works, but let's click, and it's thinking. And it's thinking, bam, done. So we need to render this. The result is in Markdown. I'm going to use the CDN for marked. Marked is a JavaScript library, and to render Markdown. We will just copy that CDN. Let's go back to my HTML. Script source equals console like that. This gives us the marked library. In theory, then, you could say let result equals marked.parse. And it is JSON dot, what did I call the result? Status. And no, I don't like status. Let's go back to app.py. review. Let's call it the review, actually. Return the review. Back to my JavaScript, JSON.review. And because I've done a couple steps here, we will just run this again just to make sure I see an HTML version of this. Reload, choose the file. By the way, this is web development tip that everybody knows. But I like sharing it every now and then. If you're ever doing something where you're working with a form and you have JavaScript that's going in there and reading stuff and doing something with your form data, and you're reloading a lot, I will sometimes in my input field just type in values on the HTML side. That way, when I reload, everything is pre-typed for me, and then I just delete that before I go live. It saves so much time in testing. Can't do that with an input type equals file because that would be a security issue. So that's why I have to keep picking my resume. So let's hit review, and it's working. I could probably get rid of the click handler, and look, there's the HTML. So I don't think I put I put a results div. So let's actually make a results variable. Copy and paste this. So results equals the results div. And let's actually write it in our HTML equals result. And we can get rid of some of these console messages. You know what? While I'm here, make it a little bit nicer UX. We will go ahead and review button disabled equals true. That way they can't click again until it's done, and we're assuming a good result. And we will undisable it when we're done. Sweet. Reload for the last time. Choose file. Raymond Camden. Hit review. That button is disabled. Hopefully you can kind of see that in the stream. And bam, let's get rid of this DevTools, and look at that. Strengths, areas for improvement, and examples. Nice. This is actually pretty accurate. But what I'm going to do is I had a good friend, I had a former boss actually review my resume and give me a Word document filled of notes. I'm going to take his feedback and improve, and then bring it back to this tool and see what makes sense. And I also point out, in the past, when I've done reviews like this, when I've asked Gen AI to review documents, a lot of times what it shows are things that I kind of already know, but having it spelled out is helpful. It's like, okay, somebody else, an AI system anyway, has agreed that this makes sense. So, all right. So the person who was complaining about lack of code, I hope you're happy now. Although now I'm gonna talk about my kids again, just to tick you off a little bit. So there is that. We have that running, and we are 30 minutes in, and we have built, just to be clear, a web application that uses Gen AI on the back end to take your input, ask the AI system for results, take it back, render it on screen. We built a full Gen AI application. It cost us nothing. And obviously my UI could look nicer, my UX could be better, etc. But we've got 35 lines of JavaScript. My Python code is around to 20 plus 15, 35 lines of code. That is stupid scary how much power we have in so little code. It's nice. What did Brian say here? Could the next step be to accept the feedback and ask Gemini to use? I mean, that's a great question. So it can't generate a PDF document, but it could generate. So you know what? Let's fiddle with this outside the web app, because this whole flow of like, here's the feedback. I could imagine having a click here to make it better as as text. Let's try from the command line and see what we can do there. So what I mean by that is, if you remember test two, this was kind of hard coded, pointing at my resume and getting the results back. Let's copy this first. Let's go to my other terminal here. Let's start fresh, right? So cp test2.py, test Brian's idea.py, and we're going to try it in the prompt. After the suggestions, add a dotted line, add a dashed line, and I have thoughts about this. We'll get back to it. Add a dashed line, and then provide a text version of the resume with improvements added, applied. All right. So just to kind of point out what I'm asking here, I'm asking for two things. I'm asking for the suggestions and feedback. And I'm asking it to like add a dash line and then give me the new text. If that feels a little loosey-goosey to you, you are correct. Gemini and other Gemini systems do support the idea of structured output, where I could say, hey, I want you to do these two things, but I want you to return JSON. And I want like a key called suggestions, which is a text block of what you want back. And then I want a text field called new resume that is markdown/text of the improved resume. And that way I don't have to do any kind of fancy parsing, but that's for later. So let's run this and see how well it works. And if it works, Brian, you could take it, make a business for it, get rich, and buy me a beer every now and then. All right, so let's see what happened. I don't think it worked. We definitely have a warning at the end, but I'm not worried about that. Example. Oh, I guess it would help if I save the file. I am a software developer. I know things like this. Let's run this again. Y'all, it's been a long year already. I know it's February 4th, but oh my God. All right. So this is definitely taking more time. And oh, look at this. So what I'm going to do, look at all this. Look, there's a dashed line, revised resume text version. That's actually a good markdown version. Let's copy this. Remember to replace. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, sure. I won't forget that at all. Make a new file. Oops. Paste it in. Excuse me. And it should recognize as markdown. So let's open up the preview. And this is my new resume, although, and it did a decent job. By the way, I should say my resume, that PDF, my resume comes from a resume.html file on my website. And I just do Command P to print to a PDF, since everywhere I apply, they want a PDF document. So it came from kind of well-structured HTML, and that looks a lot like this. So the line break didn't work there, but that's all right. Highly accomplished and results-oriented developer evangelist with over a number of years of experience building thriving. It's, for the heck of it. Can we open up my PDF this side here? Yeah, all right. I like the improvement, actually. Highly accomplished and results-oriented developer evangelist. Yeah. I kind of dig this. Let's see what I did to my Adobe role. Revamp existing documentation, create need to. Yeah, this is pretty good, and where it's asking me to quantify. Yeah, I agree with that. Brian, that was an excellent idea. And this is just kind of interesting. So let's go back here. This resume, however, some clues can make it even more impactful. So when you could take the stream, yeah. Listen, y'all, when I finally land that job, I'll be thanking everybody on the stream. I don't know if we'll have time today, but this would be a great time to look into the structured output feature to actually structure the output if we were to bring this into the web app. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to AI Studio and got to make sure I'm not showing anything weird. All right, so review and rate the attached resume, just kind of like rebuilding this in AI Studio. And yes, all right, it's extracting my PDF, run. And I don't really care about the output. I'm gonna let it run one time. And it's still thinking. Well, it's taking a lot longer here. That's kind of interesting. The API actually went a heck of a lot faster. That is shockingly slow. Like, I wonder if something went wrong. You should talk to Sam at Writer. Hit me up with more details on that. I'm not sure what Writer is. Please, I should say. Thank you, Nick. Oh, there we go. All right, that's quite a bit longer than usual. Well, you know, it's an API call. It's AI. There's going to be some randomness involved in there. So, really, I don't really care about the instruction. The result, what I care about is I'm going to tell AI Studio that I want structured output. And I'm going to define in a nice little visual editor what the output is and review. That will be a string. And revised resume. And this is both going to be required. Save. And now in theory, if I run this again, let me review the resume and return a revised edition. I will attach my PDF again. And in theory now, I should get JSON back. We'll run it. Ran a heck of a lot quicker. And we are seeing that we are getting it back. Oh, now, of course, the only issue, wow, I did not expect that. The revised resume is actually a JSON structure of a resume. That's not what I expected. It got a little bit too fancy. But let's take this as a starting point. So it's still working. That's fine. I'm gonna hit get code. So what I want to point out is the way that Gemini supports the structured output. And you can see a couple of things here. Let's say response schema right there. Oh, yeah, okay. All right, that's fine. So there's two main differences here. when they generate or when they get a reference to the model, that's in line 67. Let's compare that to mine, which is right here where I just asked for the model name. In their edition, they also have a config object. That config object has some defaults for how the AI system is going to work. We don't have to worry about that. What we really care about is this response schema, which is how I told it to return what came back. Now, again, that revised resume, I'm not necessarily happy with, but we're going to take this, I'm going to drop that into our code and tab it over like that. We do need to import content. It's already complaining about it. I saw that up here. Import it from the SDK. And hopefully that works. It says it couldn't be resolved. I'm sure it's going to be fine. It does look like maybe it's using an older SDK. We'll figure this out. So again, when it makes that model, it's going to pass the config. I'm just going to copy and paste right from there, and we'll see what happens. So that was model name. If I could spell model right, model name equals this. And generation config equals generation config. So let's get this back up, go back to over here. And it reloaded. I feel slightly not terribly confident about that. But we will see. So I'm going to go back here and just we're going to print to the console what it got back. This will break the JavaScript as well, but we will see. I think I broke everything probably. We'll see. We'll see. All right, choose the file, pick my PDF again, hit review. Now it's working. I'm going to switch back to my terminal. Again, in theory, the only change is same prompt. I told Gemini to be better about response, and you could see it totally did not. Oh, you know why? I didn't ask for it. We updated the prompt in the other one in our test script. Where's Brian's test? Right there. I'm going to take this prompt like this. Go back to Gemini, update the prompt here. So now we're actually asking for it back. And the result, big old JSON structure. We'll run that again and see what happens. And now I think we'll be good. In theory. Yeah. And actually it looks, let's go back. Let's go back to the network panel. I think this time it did the, there's review. Huh. It did not, because look at that. It's returning, has it wrapped up a little bit weird. So how are we going to fix this in the next 10 minutes? So the actual response had the line break in there, which is not right. I've had this happen before. So we got a string back. Let's scroll back up here in the command line. So yeah, that's valid. That's valid JSON. Back to our app.py. So instead of returning a wrapped object, I want to return just the result. Okay, here we go. So just return the result. Let's scroll all the way back down again. Let's run this again, because now my Python class is returning JSON. So hit this again. And it's thinking, and it's thinking. It's thinking some more. And look at that. It worked. And because my JavaScript code was looking for result.review, that still works. So literally, I can add the revised resume. Brian, I love you, dude. That was a great response. We are going to make this look a little bit nicer, and then we'll be done for the day. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to do it like so. We're going to say let result equals. We're going to make a template string review, and we're going to include. Oh, no, what you want to do? Yeah, go ahead. Actually include it. Like that. Let's actually use line breaks where we can. So that puts the review on top, and then we'll have revised resume. And that was, what did I call that again? Revised resume, duh. Revised resume. And I used result already. We'll say let HTML, and we'll do like that. And I can't believe we got this working in just a few minutes. And I am absolutely not crediting my software skills. I am crediting the SDK making things simpler, and Copilot kind of helping me write some code at the same time, which is nice. All right, so it's thinking, and let's see. We have a review and blah, 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 and revised resume. And we could definitely make this look a lot nicer, but dang, that is pretty darn cool. And also a great place to stop for the day. So hope y'all enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. Let me switch over here real quick. Remove my big ugly face on screen for a bit. So our next code break is February 18th. Like I mentioned earlier this year, I was going to do a better job of scheduling, so we already have one scheduling. I will definitely be showing up with a job until definitely. What we're going to do in the next session is talk about some AI stuff in the browser, doing without an API at all and doing completely on the browser with Transformers.js and probably Chrome's built-in AI as well, like upcoming built-in AI, I should say. As a reminder, everything is going to be up on my GitHub repo. Like I'm going to hang up. I got to check something. Within 30 minutes, it'll be up there and you could check it out and download the code. Again, you will need your own key. You'll have to install requirements and all that jazz. But you can play with the minimal amount of code that is there. I hope you liked it. If you have any feedback, complaints, or otherwise, you could drop me an email. You can find me online on Blue Sky primarily. Just reach out. I'd love to hear your feedback. Please come back again. Fox Crypto Boss. I will still be talking about my kids. Well, hold on. So Fox said you can't show your key. I'm not showing my key to anybody, right? The key was in the server-side code. There was nothing in the front end. Now, Gen AI costs money, right? So obviously I would need to keep in mind what my traffic is going to be like. But no one can see my key. That's all behind the scenes. And if that was not clear, let me know. In the you're saying in the future app. If you mean my next session, okay. No. So Transformers.js is open source and it runs everything on the browser. And the Chrome built-in AI stuff that they are shipping, it's all in the browser. There's no API keys. That's why it, at least to me, it is very exciting about what could come out. Show up and you will see. So with that, thank you all for the great feedback and the great comments and just keeping me active on my toes. Again, Brian, thank you. That's what you want to get as a live streamer, I think. It's a question that leads to a cool modification. And you'll have a great rest of your day. And bye-bye.